And when the lactation consultant was with me, I was able to get her to nurse and latch, and that was fine. But that's only one feeding out of like 12 or 10 in the day. So the other feedings, like I don't know, I can't get this to work. The baby's crying. I feel it's like tired. Like I'm tired from delivering. I'm tired from being a new mom and trying to figure this out, and it's stressful.
Balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Episode number 70. Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am your host, Lori Jill Eisenstadt, IBCLC. I thought I would begin this show with a little personal information about myself and my family life. I originally recorded this interview a few months ago. Here in Phoenix, we had not hit the triple digits yet. But that did happen on May 4th when we hit 100 degrees. Today, on Father's Day 2016, we hit record temperatures. Previous records were in 1968 when it hit 115. Well, today, the projections were for it to hit 120 degrees. And shucks, we only made it to 117. When you don't live here, people don't see how we can possibly go out of our comfortable, air-conditioned homes. But hey, we have things to do, people to see, and places to go, especially on Father's Day. We came from different parts of the valley, my family, to celebrate Father's Day with my in-laws who are 90 years old. We came to them so they did not have to come out in the heat. When we got to their place, my kids said to my husband, "Open up the front door." And he opened up the front door, and there I saw my son, Jesse, who had flown in from Washington to surprise us. And it was only my daughter Carly who knew that. She had to pick him up from the airport, so she knew that he was coming, but nobody else did. It was a wonderful surprise. After a great breakfast, we followed it up with our annual Father's Day tradition. We went to the movies and saw Money Monster. I usually bring a light sweater to the movie theaters as the air conditioner is usually blasting and it feels like winter sometimes. Well, today, it took me even a good half hour to finally cool off in the theater, and I never needed my sweater. Here is my "It was so hot today" commentary. It was so hot in Phoenix today that a flight from Houston was forced to turn around because weather conditions were too hot. That's right. That particular flight was minutes away from landing at Sky Harbor Airport here in Phoenix when the flight crews notified passengers it would be turning back because of the weather. It turns out they said that the tires were at risk of blowing out upon landing in this heat. Can you imagine? This New Yorker can only say, only in Phoenix. It's hot, but I still have a show to do. We are going to get deep into talking about breast pumping and how uncomfortable it can be for some moms and what you can do to make it all better. Stay tuned because at the end of today's show, my guest has a special offer for you. Let's get started. Tu-Hien is the founder and CEO of BoGen, a company that strives to bring mom-inspired innovation to life. After living and working in cities around the world, her life was turned upside down after becoming a mother. Tu-Hien was determined to breastfeed, but quickly found out that it was not as easy as it seemed. She has built a company with her husband, which has brought her family closer. She spends most parts of her day working on the business and taking care of her daughter as a team with her husband, partners in business and partners in life. Welcome, Tu-Hien, to the All About Breastfeeding show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Yes, I'm thrilled to learn more about you and your family and your product. I'd like for you to start off by telling us a little bit of background about your life, where you grew up, the family that you grew up in, and bring us to current date.
Sure. So I grew up in Florida. Pretty much nothing too extraordinary or out of the ordinary. After I graduated college, I was in the financial industry. So I was working these high pressure, high pace jobs in New York City and San Francisco. And then I worked a few years abroad in Hong Kong. And then, kind of circled my way back home. And really, the tipping point of my life of changing it was when we had our daughter, Ariana. People say when you have kids, your life changes and your priority changes. And I guess nothing really prepares you for it until it actually happens to you. So that's pretty much the beginning of my journey into being an entrepreneur and going down this path of helping breastfeeding moms.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but I don't know if you're like me. One of my favorite sayings is that after I had my first, in a good way, mostly good, some anxiety and stress, but I felt like my life was turned upside down and inside out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of putting it, too.
So tell me a little bit about the work that you had been doing and what you're currently doing, and let's touch on that, and then we're going to get more into that later.
So the work I was doing is completely, I would say it's like completely different from the world that I'm in now. I was in big corporate jobs, working at a desk, doing what, my bosses told me to do. I was always a really good student, and I always wanted to perform well. I was in finance and, doing numbers and all that stuff. And I just realized after 8 years of doing it and doing it around the world that it just didn't really suit me. And then once, after giving birth to my daughter and discovering what I could be doing to actually make impact in other women's lives and their babies' lives, I really discovered what I'm really good at, talking to people, finding a team to help me drive towards a common goal, and just really enjoying really helping people, helping moms and their babies. So that's how my husband and I got started, and we teamed up to develop a product that helps pumping moms have a more comfortable pumping experience.
Great. We're going to get into that in a little bit. I'd like to talk a little bit about breastfeeding first. Do you know if you were breastfed? Did you ever have that conversation?
Yeah, I did. And, when I was pregnant, breastfeeding, the fact that I wanted to breastfeed was just a secondary thought. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to breastfeed. But then I never thought anything past that. Just that it would kind of magically happen like it does with everybody else. Because when I talked to my mom, she's like, yeah, I breastfed you for I don't know how many months, and that was that. So there was never really talk of like, oh, the pump, or it hurts, or it's kind of tricky and you need to practice. There was really no mention of that. Even with my mother-in-law, there was really no mention of that besides, oh, yeah, I breastfed. That's just the way it was. So then I just kind of assumed, all right, I guess that it'll just be like that with me too. But then when my daughter was born and I tried, it wasn't as easy as I had thought, and that I guess people kind of made it out to me. So maybe it was on me where I just didn't educate myself enough on that part. So that's when I realized that this part's really tricky. Actually, I find, and then through my journey, I realized that breastfeeding and pumping is definitely harder than delivery and pregnancy.
It's one of those things we don't think about, and
no,
there
not at all.
So much. Yeah, there's so much that goes into pregnancy, and definitely the birth. And yet the reality that many of us have is that we put a lot of energy into pregnancy and birth where it should be.
Right.
But not necessarily the same amount of energy into thinking about, I have a baby now. What's really going to happen afterwards?
Yeah, I guess I guess because your brain can only, I don't know, maybe it's because you can only handle so much when you're pregnant because it's already a life-changing thing for the woman or for both people actually. So I don't know, just there wasn't really much discussion around that. Just, do you have a birth plan? What kind of stroller did you get? That was a hot topic too. But
I know, when you think about
it,
especially if you do have any issues with as a new mother, you're thinking like, why did I care so much?
Yeah.
Hours on the internet, looking for the right
stroller, what kind of diaper?
Yeah, but when we're pregnant, I mean, it's understandable because we're so present, we're so in the moment, we have this baby growing, our body's changing.
Yeah.
We hear so much about birth. It's totally understandable why that's where our focus is, because we're just in that present mind. And so I totally get it. It's just one of those things that as women we look back afterwards and we say, why? So tell me what happened after you had Ariana. Where was she born?
So I gave birth in New York City. It's kind of a funny story because we lived literally on the same block as the hospital we were giving birth at. And you can't, I mean, in New York City, we don't have a car, but I couldn't take a cab to the hospital because it's literally just driving the same block. It's literally just like behind my building. So I walked to the hospital in between my contractions, and I know my doorman asked me, was like, are you okay? Do you want me to get a cab? I'm like, well, no cab will drive me 20 feet down the road, So I literally just walked to the hospital in between contractions with my husband.
That is kind of good. I mean, we want you to be walking, right?
Yeah, I would have to stop and kind of take very deep breaths, and in between I told my husband, all right, go, we have to walk fast to the hospital.
And anyway, in New York, I mean, I'm from New York, it's like, I bet you probably didn't even have too many people looking at you.
No, not really.
Not
really. I guess kind of a normal day.
A normal day.
I'm sure, I mean, I guess if I tell people that aren't from New York City, that sounds really weird, but it kind of is normal. I don't know, so.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm from New York, so I can totally get it.
So, I mean, I was in labor for 20 hours. Finally, totally relieved once, she came out. And then, I didn't get the skin to skin initially that I had wanted after giving birth. So now that I look back on it, I wonder if that kind of plays a role in the fact that I couldn't really establish the nursing relationship. And another thing is I gave birth and it was a holiday, and there was no lactation consultant on the floor, so I didn't have any help other than the nurse telling me, yeah, you should just try to breastfeed. I didn't have any help in trying to figure out, positioning and latching and all that stuff. So when I tried, I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, is it working? Is she getting any milk? How do I know? Am I even producing any milk? And I just know that she was just crying and upset. So then I was like, maybe she's not getting anything. And so when I was talking to nurses, they would weigh her. I guess the rule is they need so many wet diapers in the first 12 hours or something like that. And the nurses kind of were well, it's been almost 12 hours. She is not really nursing. There's no lactation consultant on the floor. So do you want to give her formula? And my husband and we're new parents. We don't know anything, and we are trusting these doctors and nurses to tell us. So they said if they recommend formula, okay, well, we'll just give her formula, which is kind of, and I look back at it kind of sad because we were both, my husband and I were pretty much yeah, let's try to breastfeed and, do that. It didn't really work out that way.
It sounds like pretty quickly you went to the formula because she didn't seem to be within a few hours of that first day.
Yeah, within the first 12 hours, I think. Yeah. And it kind of makes me sad when I think about that. I don't know, maybe we could have been a little more educated in that part and understanding our choices as new parents and rights. But we were just you guys are health professionals, and if you think that she needs formula, okay, we'll just give her formula.
Well, that is the very common reaction that parents have. First of all, we talked about how we pay a lot of attention to the pregnancy and birth, and the things were happening in birth. You would ultimately tend to go along with whatever your care provider suggested, but you would probably have more questions because you're educated about the choices that they're suggesting that you might make in labor. But when it comes to after the baby, that's the thing, is if we're not educated, and it's totally understandable why parents say, and this is very common, well, I don't know, you're the physician, you're the nurse. If you're saying my baby's hungry and she needs to eat, or if you're talking about low blood sugar, you're like, what do I know?
Yeah.
And, and so we're just kind of going along with what they're telling us, right?
Yeah. So I think it was just the day after was when there was a lactation consultant around to help me figure out, this is how you hold the baby, this is the angle you need to approach the breast at, and this is, you want the nipple, the areola, all. So that's when I got my first lesson on how to breastfeed her. And when the lactation consultant was with me, I was able to get her to nurse and latch, and that was fine. But that's only one feeding out of 12 or 10 in the day. So the other feedings, I don't know. I can't get this to work. The baby's crying. I feel it's tired. I'm tired from delivering. I'm tired from being a new mom and trying to figure this out, and it's stressful. And the baby's crying. I'm crying. So I'm like, okay, let me just pump and see if I can get anything, and then we'll figure out the nursing thing as we go. And it just happened that I just never was able to get the nursing thing, because I feel like my daughter's impatient and she just cries and she wants her milk now. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pump and get it to her, because she's not going to be patient enough to try to figure out the latching thing.
So by the time you left the hospital, you still were not able to really help her consistently get a good latch, and you had started pumping and giving her milk in a bottle.
Yep.
And so now you're home. How long is it that you keep trying to offer her the breast, and you're both frustrated before you make a decision to just say, I'm just going to exclusively pump?
So I had called the lactation consultant 2 or 3 days in a row to come to my house, help me, figure out the latching and everything. So we probably spent about a week trying to figure this out. And while she would maybe be on my breast and then bite me and then all these things, and then keep crying. So while I tried, I still ended up giving her the bottle. In a combination of formula and breast milk, I think I was able to pump a little bit a couple days later. And then I realized, this nursing thing is just not working out. So I probably within a week, I decided I'm just going to pump.
So did you have a home visit with a lactation consultant?
Yeah, she came to my house 3 times. 3 times, yeah.
Did she have any particular opinion about why you were having such difficulty?
She just said I needed to practice, that if she was standing right there and I tried to put her on my breast to nurse, it would work. But then when she was gone, I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was. Maybe I needed that emotional support. But she would just give me a few tips, make sure you hold the head this way, and you have her facing you. And then I was like, okay, I can do it. And then she was with me, and then we were able to get the latch, and we weighed her, and she got her milk, and it was fine. But then, the next feeding was just like, oh God, I can't do this. My daughter's crying and upset. She's hungry. So I'm like, okay, let's just give her the bottle. And then that's when I'm like, I don't think this nursing thing is going to work. I don't want to quit. I don't want to just give her formula. So let me just pump.
Was your mom or your mother-in-law or any friends who breastfed, anybody around giving you a little bit of help and support and encouragement?
My mom was there, but she didn't really give me tips, because I think she probably just thought, it just happened. I just put you and it just happened, but it didn't really work. It didn't really work like that for me, unfortunately.
Did it hurt? When the lactation consultant was there with you and you were able to get her on, it sounds like when she weighed the baby afterwards, it sounds like she did transfer and get a good amount of milk, a normal amount.
Yeah. It didn't hurt.
Did it hurt you at all?
No, it didn't hurt, which is how I could figure out whether it was correct or not. But then when I did it myself, it just, I don't know, I think the latch was too shallow. Maybe I didn't get the right angle.
Well, definitely, here's the thing is, there definitely is a huge learning curve for most of us, and you can get a lesson or two, but just like anything else in life, you get a lesson for any other task or skill that you're trying to learn. And it's not usually just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times that we have someone helping us and encouraging us. Usually it's many, many, many times. And I think what I've learned from myself and the thousands of women that I've worked with, wouldn't you agree that I think it's like one of the most difficult times when you're not at your best emotionally and physically, to learn probably
anything.
One of the most important things that you'll be doing.
Exactly.
And when you have another tool that works, the bottle, and your baby's crying, it's understandable why it just becomes so frustrating, and it's easy to go to the bottle.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very emotional time because my baby's crying. She's hungry. She wants what she wants at that very moment, and almost feel like something's wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I can't figure this out. This is my baby. I'm the only one that's supposed to be able to feed her, and I can't do it. So there's this whole emotional struggle. It's emotional, mental, and physical struggle because I still can't really walk around after delivery. So it's like all these things happening at once.
And your husband, what was his feeling about the difficulties that you were having?
I think he felt really bad. Like he wanted to support me, but I think he did tell me like, if I could breastfeed her myself, I would, but I can't. So anything.
What a nice guy.
I know. He was very, very supportive. Anything I needed, he was always there to help me. So if he would take care of the diaper changing and the bottle washing, but just help me support, and he, try to, I don't know how much he could really do to help me with the breastfeeding, but he tried to support me emotionally, like in any other way possible. So I definitely had like the emotional support around, but
yeah, you're a mom like I think a lot of us are when we're struggling. If we had someone to sit by our bedside for a couple of days for every single feeding, we would probably get it underway. Yeah, it's not the way we're set up. So tell me, did you have a visit with the pediatrician and discuss breastfeeding issues, and did you get any help there?
Yeah, so I think we have to go to the pediatrician like the next day once we get home from the hospital. And when the pediatrician weighed my daughter, he's like, well, she's lost a lot of weight. What is it? It's like 10%, right? You don't want to lose more than 10% of birth weight.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's like, she's kind of getting close to almost around 10%. So if that means she's probably not getting enough breast milk, you probably need to keep supplementing with formula. So he's the doctor.
Yeah, and 10% is extreme. We're looking for quite a bit less than that. So okay.
So that's when we're like, okay, then all right, we'll just do whatever we need to do. If she needs formula, I'd rather give her formula than have her like have health issues. So like, okay, we'll give her formula. And through this time I was still pumping. He didn't really give me much advice as far as feeding, but I would say like I'm trying to breastfeed, giving her the bottle. And he's like, okay, that's good. So just keep doing that and keep, supplementing her feeding. So make sure that to get her weight up. So like, okay, we'll do that. We'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll do it. Basically.
Because this is my baby, and she needs to eat, and I want her to thrive, right?
Exactly.
So are you saying that when she was about a week old, is that when you made the switch to exclusively pumping?
Yes.
And at that time, had you begun to make a partial supply, half a supply, or a full supply for her?
The most I could do was be maybe one feeding ahead. It actually took me about 2 months to really be able to catch up to her demand, where most of her feeding was breast milk, and maybe one, if any, bottle was formula. So it took me a while to get my supply up, but I think that's kind of a reflection of how I didn't really know how to use the pump, how to pump. Like, yeah, I know you're supposed to pump milk, but I didn't realize that you're supposed to pump to full empty every single time. And then if you want to stimulate production, you should pump past when you're empty.
What I'm hearing you say is that you really didn't have the information and help you needed to breastfeed.
Definitely not.
And now you're pumping. And where do you get your information about pumping? Are you looking up stuff online? Are you going to the pump company's website? Where are you finding out what it is you should be doing?
So I got my pump through my insurance. So I got a Medela, which is, I guess, the most common pump, and everybody was using it, and I read the reviews on Amazon, so I'm like, okay, if everybody's using it, I guess I should use it too. And I read their website, but I mostly got my information just from my family, like my sister and my cousins who also breast pumps. They're the one that showed me how to set it up. They're the one that told me, like, oh, you should probably pump maybe 15 minutes. But then I didn't realize that everybody pumps at a different time. It's not like a set thing. So it was just that in itself was a learning curve too.
And were any of the people helping you, were they exclusively pumping also?
No.
There's a bit of a learning curve in changing of what pump you might use and pumping habits that you would have when you're exclusively pumping too.
Yeah. See, I know that after I'm done pumping,
right,
and after I've gone on this journey to help pumping moms, I realized all these things like, wow, I didn't know that. That's probably why I struggled with supply, because I always thought, oh, my body just doesn't make enough. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think I didn't pump properly. I don't think I had the right, actually, I know I didn't have the right flange fit, and then I know I didn't pump long enough. I probably didn't even pump frequently enough, too.
Yeah, there's a whole learning curve.
Yeah.
So if you were using the Medela pumping style from the insurance company, you already started off with using a very good pump for moms who are breastfeeding and pump, but not the best pump for a mom who is exclusively pumping. We're looking for you to use one of the hospital-grade pumps. If you're not starting off with a hospital-grade pump, which can replace a baby at the breast, and then the right flanges, comfortable, frequency,
all sorts of stuff,
period, all that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's another whole learning curve with that. So now you're saying it took you a couple of months until you had a full supply. And how long did you continue to pump and bottle feed with a full supply for Ariana?
So I went from 2 months all the way up to about 8 months. I wasn't even able to build the supply. I was very proud of my very small freezer stash, but I was very proud of it. And then,
I am women, hear me roar.
Yeah,
right?
I would have like 2 bags and take a picture and show my sister, like, wow, look at my supply. I've got 2.
Yay.
But yeah, I mean, I pumped pretty much with a full supply probably till around 8 months, and then used the rest of my freezer stash to get her to like 8.5 months of breastfeeding.
Pumping, exclusively pumping.
It's not easy.
A lot of hard work, dedication. You're pretty much tethered to the pump.
Yep.
And
taking a little break so I can share this info with you. I am really psyched to be able to share this next piece of news with you. My regular listeners are very familiar at this point with Momentum, the organization that I talk about on each show. You know, the one that I say saved my life as a new mother, the organization that helped me find other mothers who were new at this whole mothering thing. They became my people. They helped me navigate that first year of motherhood and continued to mother me as I had more kids, and my need for support through their toddler years and kindergarten years and elementary school years just kept being needed. I made lifelong friends, and they were so helpful that I am doing all I can to continue to support the organization. I want Momentum to continue to thrive, and I want you, my All About Breastfeeding audience, to experience just some of what Momentum is all about. The ladies of Momentum have agreed to give my listeners a 14-day trial membership so you can see what this mother-centered thing is all about at no cost to you. Just hop on over to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/podcast. You will see a link from Momentum. It's in blue, and you just click it on and it will bring you to the page for you to sign up for your free trial. Honestly and truly, there's absolutely no cost to you. This is just a great opportunity for you to enjoy the discussion groups and the blogs and webinars and educational pieces that are available for free for you. I will have a link to this in the show notes. And now, back to the show.
yeah, so tell me about, because I know you had some problems with pumping and pain that led you to the business that you created. So tell me a little bit about that.
I use the flange sizes that were provided by the pump company, right? So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll use this 24 millimeter shield. And then I remember trying to go to sleep at night, and my nipples were in so much pain. I couldn't sleep. And my husband gave me ice, and I just like try to ice them, and it was just so painful. And I was telling my friends, I'm like, it's so painful. What do I do? And they say, oh, you should use a lubricant, and also you might want to check your flange size. I'm like, what, bigger? She's like, no, maybe try smaller. So I went down to 21 millimeters. Like, okay, I guess it's a little better. And also another made was that I used lanolin for my lubricant. And then later on, after I was done pumping, I find out that's the opposite of what you want to do. That you probably want.
When you say pain, although it hurts all of us who are listening and probably holding our breasts and nipples, I think it's educational for moms. Can you replace the word pain with specific adjectives as to how it felt?
Okay, so it was just it was throbbing, and felt like my nipples were just swollen practically the entire time I was pumping. Throbbing to like, not a dull throbbing, but like an intense throbbing that I couldn't sleep at night.
So you're done pumping, and you turn off the pump and you put your bra back on, or maybe not, just a t-shirt, but it sounds like you always have an awareness in your body that about your nipples, any pain and throbbing you're feeling.
Yeah.
So it's like you never forget about your nipples.
It was just so uncomfortable. I mean, I would cringe at the feeling of my shirt just like on my nipples. So I always had like this soft like sports bra on, and it was just so sensitive.
So what was your emotional mindset I'm trying to like think about this, like, because you have to pump many times a day. And you know that you're going to cause more pain to your nipples. What is your emotional mindset? How are you able to connect yourself to the pump?
Connecting myself to the pump is just is not fun. I remember every time, like when my alarm went off saying it's time to pump, I would think, God, I hate pumping so much. I wish my husband could just do it for me. Or I just wish I could skip this pump. But I was like, and I would just look at my daughter. I'm like, I love my daughter. I'm just going to do it. I would just sit down. And then it just kind of became a routine. Like, all right, just sit down, get it done. And I would try to distract myself with my phone, like reading emails and things like that, which doesn't really put you in the right state of mind to try to get the full let down and getting the most out of your pump. But it was just my way of trying to cope with the discomfort of it, and the fact that I was always tethered to this pump, sitting in the corner of the room, staring at a wall I pumped for like 10-15 minutes, which later on found out it's not long enough, but that's another issue. And then I was like, let me just get it done.
I would tend to say that you're looking at your phone or doing something else and distracting, in your case, was probably a really positive coping technique.
Maybe.
Because it allowed some distraction away from, rather than just sitting there and being present and feeling the pain with every touch. You were able to do something mindless, which kind of kept your mind a little bit off of it, which may have allowed you to relax. And that in of itself, I would say, was probably pretty positive for you. Oh,
yeah, maybe. But then, when I would see, like, when I was finished pumping, and then I would feed my daughter, and she would just take it all, that was satisfying to see that. And I don't know, it's just something satisfying to see your child eating and being healthy. So it was like, okay, it was worth it.
When you were giving Ariana the bottle, especially in the early days, did you pay any attention to holding her close and just being there with her, and maybe even skin to skin? Because I know that there's a lot that goes into breastfeeding, and part of it is just really being present, holding your baby close, talking, cooing, touching. And I talk to moms about that a lot who are giving their baby the bottle, to not forget about those parts also, because it's easy to just get comfortable giving our babies a bottle and then to be looking at the computer, looking at someone else, making eye contact, the TV, etc. Did you have an awareness about that at all?
Yeah, I did. And I tried to be as present and there with her as much as I could. There are times where I just look at her and just get completely lost in, like, the miracle that's in my arms, I'm sure a lot of moms can relate to that, understand that. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, or every single mom. But it's a pretty amazing feeling at the same time. So with the whole, the pump relationship is kind of like this love-hate. Like, you really hate it, but you know you love your baby, so you do it, and the outcome of it is worth it. It's this weird, kind of a
So
weird...
do you remember the last time you pumped?
Yeah, that was an interesting story, just because weaning was an emotional thing too. I probably, through my entire 8.5 months of pumping, I said I wanted to quit like almost every single day. So I don't know. So I look back and think, wow, I made 8.5 months. That's like pretty awesome. And then when it's like, all right, I made it. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to 6 months, and then I'm going to stop. And then 6 months came, and then I was still pumping at 7 months, and I was still pumping at 8 months. My husband's like, you can stop. It's okay. And I'm like, I want to, but I can't. It's like, maybe just one more pump. How about one more? Okay. Let me just pump for a little bit, and then...
It's funny when the choice is in our lap and we've been thinking about it all this time, and now you're getting closer to actually weaning, and then...
Yeah, weaning was probably more of... I don't think it really affected my daughter at all, because she was used to bottle, she was used to both having formula and breast milk. It was more on my side. Like, I don't know if I...
Yeah, well, weaning to this pump, yeah.
I don't know if I can... If I want to really do... I know I've been talking a big game about quitting, but I don't know if I can actually. So I think when I finally did, it was just like, okay, I think I'm done. Really, I'm done. Yeah, my husband's like, it's okay. You did like a great job. You went 8 months, 8.5 months. It's awesome. So I'm like, okay, I'm happy about that.
Sounds like you got a great guy too.
Yeah. Yeah, he is great.
So did you gradually wean? Did you take a week or so to do less and less pumping?
Yeah, so I just started dropping pumps and spacing my pumps further apart. And then eventually I got to the point where I was just pumping twice a day, once in the morning and kind of once in the evening. And then I went to one pump. And finally I was like, okay, this is going to be my last pump. And I'm going to wake up. I'm not going to pump. And I can actually sleep in. I don't have to lug this thing around with me and just see what it feels like. And then I just kind of listened to my body. I mean, if I felt really engorged, then I would pump. But towards the end, it was like okay. And I wasn't really producing that much, so it was gradual. My body, I think, handled it well, and Ariana just she was fine with it. So that wasn't really an issue. It was, like I said, it was more my emotional side, weaning myself off of it.
Which is huge, our emotional state. Right?
Yeah. Something I wasn't really prepared for either. Like, I didn't realize that would be a thing.
I know, it's all these things. It's like frequently it's in hindsight that you realize these things because there's nobody sitting there talking to you about pumping, exclusive pumping.
Yeah, exactly.
And how to go about it and how to make it better. And then you get to the point of weaning. And thank goodness you might have read or spoken to someone, but it sounds like you gradually wean from the pump safely, which is a big thing in my business, trying to walk women through that. But then there's also the emotional piece, because now you're going through another hormonal shift. Never mind the decrease in milk, there's the shift in hormones that you're experiencing when you're weaning from the actual art of breastfeeding and or pumping. But the milk removal, there's more hormonal shifts that happen.
Yeah. And I think, I joined a lot of these women exclusively pumping support groups online, and they've really, really helped me too, and also help educate me on certain things, like tips on how to wean as well. Like, how do you even start weaning? Like, well, just drop one pump in like a week and just space it out. I'm like, okay. So just getting kind of tips like that and sharing knowledge, that did help too. Because else I would have had no idea. Like,
yes,
so I just stopped.
Great. That's great, the forums of other moms who have been in the trenches. So I want you to be able to share with us about the difficulty that you had pumping and how that led you to the work that you're doing now.
Sure. So, like I had mentioned earlier, when I was pumping, I just felt that it was always uncomfortable, that my nipples were always swollen, and sometimes they would just get like cracked. And when I was speaking to these moms in the forums, just say, I get like bloody nipples and all these very uncomfortable things that happen to your nipples. And I was thinking, like, wow, if so many women have to pump using this equipment, why is it that nobody's made anything better? So, and I was talking to my husband about how painful it is and all this stuff, and then we were like, well, why don't we try to fix something. So why don't we try to fix it and come up with a solution to help moms with this pain? So we came up with our first product. It's called Perfect Latch, and it's a nipple cushion. It's really soft and stretchy. The big differentiating factor between this and the other shields, like soft shields that are out in the market, is that it works with whichever breast shield you use. So, for example, Amida has a soft shield, and I think Medela had one at one point, but the Medela one only works with Medela equipment. Amida only works with Amida. Ours, the Perfect Latch, works with both Medela, Amida, Hygeia, Freemies, whichever Lancino, whatever pump that the moms use. So we wanted to make it easy for moms. That's another thing. Moms already have so many things on their mind, so why confuse them and make it more difficult by having so many choices? It's like you only have one cushion, you stick it in whichever flange you use, sizes 19 millimeter, 36 millimeter, and it should work. So it's like, let's make it simple, make it easy, very easy for them to use, and then so that they can have a more comfortable experience when they pump.
So what you're talking about is, because there are some moms listening who don't even know what a flange is,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are other moms who we're stuck in what we think we know what a flange is and can do. And for those moms, first talk about what a regular flange is, and then talk about what the Perfect Latch is. It's not a flange. It's something that you put inside a flange that you already have. So can you make those distinctions?
Sure. So the flange that you get is this hard plastic breast shield that you actually put to your breast and your nipples, and that's what your nipple gets pulled in with using the pump, and that's how the milk is expressed. And the thing is that when you're pumping as frequently as I was, and a lot of other moms are, your nipples are rubbing up against like a hard plastic, and it gets really, really uncomfortable. Like I said, like swollen nipples, it's just all this unpleasant stuff. So the Perfect Latch is a soft nipple cushion insert that you put into the hard flange. That way, when you're pumping, it protects the skin, like your sensitive nipple, from the hard plastic. So it almost creates like a little friction barrier between your skin and the plastic. Moms have said it's like, it feels like they're pumping into clouds. And another cool thing is that since the material is really soft and stretchy, while your nipples are moving, it moves with your nipple. That's what makes it feel comfortable.
Is that what helps to reduce the swelling of your nipple?
Yeah, I would think so. Because the reason why mine was swelling was because it was just constantly rubbing against the plastic, the hard plastic. And I had to pump, I think, like 10 times a day. So
is it still just important, if you're using the Perfect Latch, is it still as important to be using the correct size flange?
Yes, definitely. So the way a lot of the flange pump manufacturers and the companies create their flanges, it's like at a set size. So you're 24 millimeter, 27 millimeter, 30, 32, etc. But every mom's different. Not every mom's exactly 24 millimeter or exactly 27 millimeter. Some moms are 25. Some moms are 22. So the Perfect Latch also helps with the sizing too. So if you're kind of like an in-between, say you're a 25 but you use a 27, with the Perfect Latch it adds a little bit of a cushion to help get a better fit.
What is it made out of?
It's made out of a soft plastic material, and it's FDA regulated, food safe, BPA free, phthalate free, all that stuff that's bad. We made sure it was super safe. And something that we're really proud of is that it's all made in the U.S. too. So all of our materials, our manufacturing, design, everything, we designed it here. It's all made in the U.S. That's
great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit also about the durability of it, like, because I'm thinking that if like there are nipple shields out there made out of silicone.
Oh, okay.
And I'm trying to get into the mindset of moms who know about these particular tools, and what I'm wondering is, how long does the Perfect Latch last? How many pumps can you use it for?
We recommend to replace after 90 days just because of the varying frequencies that moms pump. So somebody like me who pumped exclusively, I would just replace it every 90 days just to make sure you get the full benefit and effect of it. As far as the durability, it's actually really stretchy, and it'll conform to any flange that the moms use. What we don't recommend is using like boiling water or those microwavable bags to clean it with, because the material is so soft, the extreme heat could make it more easy to tear. So we wouldn't want that. So the care for it is like, it's really easy. It's really easy to wash. Just some gentle soap and warm water in the sink, and it takes, 5 seconds to do it. And it actually takes probably another 5 seconds to dry too. So basically the Perfect Latch does three things, right? It adds comfort. It can help with the fit of your breast shield, of your flange, like I mentioned. And also another thing is it can add compression. And it can add compression to the area where you can't do your, when you're pumping and you're kind of manually expressing like around your breast. Well, it can add compression closer to the nipple, and that's the area where you can't reach while you're pumping. And it can help with more efficient pumping.
Exactly what you mentioned, because when I work with moms who are pumping, whether it's exclusive or even just a couple of times a day, one of the things that their pump is hurting them. Now, not everybody has a problem with the pump and with the flanges, but some moms do, and there are some things that we can do to make it better. Sometimes it's the pump they're using, the flange size, how they're holding it, the suction, the speed. But sometimes what I notice is that the only reason that some moms are having some problems is that they're doing all this kind of breast compression and squeezing and massaging while they're pumping, which is what I call jiggling and wiggling their breast and nipple inside the flange. So I'm really interested to see how this unfolds also with the Perfect Latch, if it does help with the milk expression and eliminate the need for moms to feel like they need to do that.
Yeah, it will help, hopefully help with more efficient pumping. So it helps the mom get to full empty quicker.
Well, I thank you so very much, Tu-Hien.
Thank you so much
for being with us today. Yeah, can you tell us ways that moms can get in touch with you if they had any questions about the Perfect Latch?
Sure.
If they wanted to check it out on your website, how do they contact?
Sure. Our website is www.beaugen.com. So it's BEAUGEN.com. And that's where you'll find information on us and our product. But I also really, really encourage everyone to follow us on Facebook. So that's BEAUGEN Mom, Beaugen Mom on Facebook. And I will be starting a live stream. So this will be an interactive way for moms who are thinking about using the product or have already using the product to ask questions, and we give you tips and tricks on how to use it and get the most out of your Perfect Latch.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, exciting.
I think the Facebook Live, I'm interested to see how that goes too and check you out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you so much. I appreciate your time in being here. And I think it's hard to share stories when we're struggling with breastfeeding, and some moms have personal guilt or shame. Not that anybody is making you feel that way. Usually it's coming from internal or, just personal letdown. And I think to come on air and talk about your struggles and that you were exclusively pumping is a hard thing to do for some moms, and just being very transparent about something that's a very intimate part of our life. So I really do thank you and appreciate you for coming on to the All About Breastfeeding show and doing so.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before I end, I have 3 topics I would like to end this show with. The first item is, I love getting email and reviews from you, my listeners. The next best thing for me to do would be able to get to talk to some of my listeners and hear your feedback about the show. What are you liking? What do you want more of? Your thoughts on what I can do to make the show better, and any additional thoughts you have. If talking to me is something you would like to do, just go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/contact. Fill out the form and just put the word feedback in the comments section,
and I will send you an email so we can work out a time to chat. The second item is an offer to pregnant moms. There's no reason for you to have unanswered worries or concerns about breastfeeding. Many have said that you would have liked to have the opportunity to talk to me before your baby was born, so you could go over certain things that may have been troubling you about breastfeeding. Questions about maybe your health, medication you're taking, maybe breast surgery you had, your nipple anatomy. Perhaps you have fears or anxiety about breastfeeding and you feel it would be helpful to talk it out before your baby's born. Some mothers just have a bunch of questions that could not be answered in your regular breastfeeding class because of time or privacy. Talking through things can help you clear the way emotionally for an excellent start with breastfeeding. If you would like to Skype me, all you need to do is go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/Skype to schedule your online prenatal consult. The third and last item is a reminder about my fabulous online breastfeeding mothers group for you to join. We are meeting for 8 Wednesdays starting May 11th. There is only room for 10 moms, so if you want to join, check out allaboutbreastfeeding.biz support for details about the group, what we're doing, and the dates, and how you can get involved. Until the next show, this is Lori saying goodbye.